What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of a Thinking Man's podcast. I'm your host. My name is Joseph PIRCHER, and with me, as always, my friend Tommy Stiles. Tommy,
What's
what's
up,
up, my
buddy?
man? How are you? This is going to be an adventure.
Yeah, it's just so the people know, we usually record during the daylight hours, and it's
Yeah,
it's nighttime for both of us right now.
yeah. It's Sunday night. We'll just be completely transparent with you guys. It's Sunday night, so this will be out in the morning. Um,
Yeah,
I just got done watching my New York Football Giants win their first playoff game in 10 plus years. So shout out to my squad. And then so we have a Q&A for you guys. First time doing one since we've put the Facebook group together. Tommy, let's talk about the Facebook group, the coaching, all that.
that's right. A Thinking Man's podcast on Facebook. If you'd like to join, see what it's all about. We're trying to create a community. Facebook does do one thing right, in that it gives better opportunity for discussions and threads and comments not to get lost, whereas YouTube and Instagram doesn't really provide that. So anybody's welcome. Don't be a dick. Bring positive value, and if you're looking to learn, it's a good place to be. So we've had some good interaction so far, and it's incipient stage, and we're just looking to keep it growing throughout the year and beyond. So like I said, a Thinking Man's podcast on Facebook. It's private. You just request to join, and Joe, I'll accept you, and we'll go from there.
We're going to vet you out. And then if you pass the test, we'll
Yeah,
let you
yeah.
in.
And
And then
as
also,
always, like,
yeah,
comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell.
ring
Links
the
for our
bell.
coaching and everything else are down below.
Yep, Tommy and I both offer online coaching. And so without further ado, we're going to jump into one of these kind of listener guided Q&As. So um, I'll start. We have one from the group. Mike from the group left this question for us. When going on a cruise and getting labs, should growth be pulled or lowered? What's your perspective? Let's talk through the different scenarios where these things might come into play.
I think it would depend on the dose. If you're 2 IUs, I wouldn't lower it. I would stay there. For me, I'll use my example. I was at 6 recently, and I dropped into a cruise, and I went down to 4. So I'm not going to say that it should or shouldn't as an absolute, but I don't think it hurts to, if you're dropping anabolics, to drop the GH with it.
Yeah, and part of that too is going to be like, how big are you, right? Like how big are you? How big are your goals? What's the timeline on your goals? Like, are we looking, is this a pre-prep phase where, it wouldn't hurt to leave more in and kind of build some momentum? Or are you just way far from competing? And then at that point, you can kind of prioritize getting your health right. How bad was your blood work the last time you got them run? But generally, yeah, I think lowering everything should be lowered. If you're in any good faith actually doing a cruise, everything should be at minimum lowered. There's plenty of times I wouldn't if you had you could, I would be an easy sell to hear that you pulled it out completely. Like if you're just a lifestyle person, like if you're not a competitor, yeah, you can pull growth completely, or like leave 2 units in as just like a replacement dose. I think it's fine. But then, like, if you're a bigger guy, you have bigger aspirations. Let's say in the example that your blood work is all right, even when you're on, blood pressure is really going to be the big thing for growth. If your blood pressure is something that you genuinely monitor and do a good job managing, lowered, but it doesn't necessarily have to come out. Like in your example, Tommy, like using 6 or even 8. I think then from that point, that probably should signify that you're super committed to bodybuilding, have been for a long time. You're a guy with a lot of muscle, and coming down from 8 or 6 to 4 is like a reasonable reduction because, I think we've gone too far, almost, it's going to sound crazy, but almost too far in the direction of like overemphasizing health. Like there's a time and a place for anything, but this is also bodybuilding. So like if there's times where the goal is to be huge on stage within a fairly decent timeline, like, yeah, leaving 4 units of growth in, like that's probably at the lower end of your concern, again, as long as your blood pressure's in check. So yeah, I mean,
Blood pressure and blood sugar, yeah.
blood sugar too. Yeah, very good call. Yeah. What type of insulin resistance are you building at that point? But yeah, anything else for this guy? Any other scenarios where we might want to pull it or leave it?
No, I don't think you'd be I don't think you're doing any harm if you leave it.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on the dose too. If you,
Yeah. Don't leave 8 in and then try to sell us on the fact that it's a cruise, because that's not a
yeah,
cruise.
well, you're just kind of wasting your money too. If you're dropping to like
For
200
sure.
tests and running 8
For
AIs of
sure.
GH, like save
Yeah.
save some money too, bro.
Yeah. All right,
All
what do you
right.
got? So these years are coming from YouTube, yeah?
For right now, I might jump. I got Facebook and YouTube, but this is from YouTube. Favorite calf training techniques and methods.
Hmm. I always liked rest pause because you could use heavy loads and fail in like lower rep ranges. I felt like I've always, just for me, I don't have great calves by any means, but when they responded, it felt like just training them heavy, super controlled, and like full range of motion, completely under control every inch of the range. But however heavy I could use, like do that form with, so that you could fail like 10 or even less. Because like they get tons of like type 2 fiber work where you're just walking around on your own body weight all day. Like it's used to that. So then to create some type of stimulus that's actually going to be enough for them to grow it, I think it just needs to be heavy. And then a big thing is just getting a weighted like stretch, like just go under a full stretch under load and own that there and just hang there and actually actively like pull your toes back towards your shins. Um, and I think those are two general ones. I mean, I don't have like a John Meadows level of calf training that I could talk about. There's a million ways to do it because they are different. Like I've seen some things. I think the genetics thing is overplayed, but they definitely respond differently than almost every other muscle group that I can think of because we are just walking around on them all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I do use some John Meadows stuff from the Annihilation Wave program. There's a method I use with the seated and standing calf raises, where it'll be 3 to 5 sets of 10 full reps with a full pause at the bottom of each rep.
Okay.
Followed by 10 partials. Super.
Like bottom half partials,
What's
like out of
that?
the stretch or what?
Yeah, out of the stretch, bottom to
Okay.
top,
Okay.
or bottom to halfway up, and then from there, you can do like a tibialis raise. I don't have a machine, so I just hook a resistance band around something, anchor it, and then I do 20 tibialis raises, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, you basically putting a band around the top of your foot and bringing your your toes back to your shin, training the front of the calf. It's actually a muscle that runs down the shin, anterior tibialis. And I found that has actually helped with my recovering my knee post PRP.
Everything. Yeah.
I'll do 3 to 5 rounds of that. And I mean, I'm pretty smoked. So, but I think in general, the best thing you can do for your calves is to make sure you're pausing at the bottom of each rep and not allowing momentum and just bouncing through your reps. I think that's the biggest mistake I see with calf training. That, and then not actually training them. I think a lot of people put them on the end of their workout and they just haul ass out of the gym when the main stuff's done and they neglect
100%. I think a good technique, actually, as simple as this sounds, but as a general rule, I almost always train calves first when I'm training my legs.
Yep. I
feel
train
like
my
it
calves
gets
first.
everything. One, I can train them hard, and I'm not smoked from a full leg workout or a full quad workout. And then it just doesn't, if anything, putting it through, difficult sets, stretch under load, all that we talked about, it gives you better ankle mobility going into some of those bigger, like quad based movements. So I think that's a good general rule too. Or even let's say you're training calves twice a week. Let's say like you want to do them, on chest and with leg day. I would just go in and do them first on both days, whether it's chest or whatever else you're training. So that'd be a good one. Let me see. Jesse from the group asked, do you utilize digestive enzymes with each meal in the off season when pushing a lot of food? Could also touch on other things we can utilize when pushing high food amounts to aid digestion.
I don't use
You're
them
the
every
go-to
meal.
for this. You're the go-to for this with how much you need to eat.
I don't use them for every meal, but I do use enzymes mainly around the meals that have red meat. So that's 3 of them a day right now.
And
Other
what about
things,
at different points in your life? Like, have you had a run where you had to, take more than that, or that's just you found what your sweet spot is?
I've found that I just think red meat is,
Mm,
because of the fat content, is the hardest thing to break down. So,
for sure. Yeah.
And then a biggest thing for me is just finding what my trigger foods are and making sure those aren't in. But the amount of red meat that we're pushing as bodybuilders, especially at my size, is even if you're doing all the things right, I just think you need more, because you got to remember, like, we're doing more than what the body was designed to do. So that's where needing the extra help with breaking down food comes from. So things like betaine HCl, I always look for that if I'm taking an enzyme product. Pepsin, and there's some other, like, there's a chain of like pancreatic enzymes that do help with things. Other things I would take, I mean, I'm not opposed to a GDA if it has I like berberine. I think
Me too.
that something like an alpha lipoic acid.
I feel like that would be the one to take if you're going to take anything over the counter. It should be berberine.
Yep. There's a lot of studies on that one too. I mean, and then if you want to get into things like using, this isn't what he asked, but like metformin, that can help, not with every meal, but as far as the enzymes,
Or it could go the other way. It goes the other way for some people. So be mindful of that.
what?
Metformin rips people's stomach, can rip somebody's stomach up. I've seen people struggle with
That's why I don't use
digestion
it.
after metformin. Yeah.
I personally it just causes more GI distress.
Yeah. As far as like enzymes or really even probiotics or anything, I can't really speak on it. I've never had to do any of that. I've kind of like an iron stomach, so I have no experience with that. I think in terms of like just pushing food for the general person, another thing that could be really good are just walks after meals, like not super strenuous, like just what you would walk outside. And if it's too cold or the weather is shitty where you are, and you happen to have a treadmill in the house, shit, I used to just walk around my house, like just do steps around the house.
Yeah, even
So
like
that's
chores, house chores right after a meal instead of
laundry or something.
Instead of being sedentary, like that can make a difference.
Yeah. Yep. And otherwise, you just got to have the will to get the food down.
Yeah. Obviously, like a fiber supplement at night can help with cleansing everything, removing all the toxins out for the next day.
For sure.
I think hydration is a big one. Make sure you're not drinking as much water around and during the meal, but throughout the day. I definitely think a good habit for anybody to do is to, first thing out of bed after using the bathroom, is to put down, 24 to 32 ounces of water right away.
Yeah.
And whether you're doing lemon juice and glutamine and all that shit, I'm not going to tell you to do that or not to do that. I've done it. I do it currently. Might not do it in a month. I don't know. But the biggest point is to drink water before you do coffee, before you anything. The first, even if, and I've heard people say it's hard to get down. Like, it's not easy for me either. It's like a mental check that I like. All right, I chugged 32 ounces of water.
You've had people that say that?
Oh yeah.
32 ounces of water and it's hard to get down before you've eaten anything all day?
Yeah.
Damn.
You gotta remember, man, it's people don't like to be uncomfortable.
Man, yeah, that one's extreme.
Yeah. We can make a whole podcast about the things we've heard.
Yeah. All right, what do you got?
I got this is fucking good. I'm gonna give Eddie Jordan on the YouTube. If you could pick one person to represent bodybuilding on Joe Rogan's podcast, who would it be?
John Jewett, probably. For me, I'm biased, but that's the first person that came to mind.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I mean, you get the best of all worlds.
I mean, fuck, he's been fourth at the Olympia. He's won pro shows. And then man, who goes about it like more well thought out and thoughtfully? Like I feel that like that's my answer also, knowing the context that like 8 million people or whatever the fuck are going to see it, and like instead of it being some meathead that makes us all look like a bunch of gorillas, like why don't we have somebody that can go and represent us intellectually as well?
That's a valid guess. I chose Cutler, Jay.
Sure. Yeah, I
That
mean,
was
he's kind of like the no brain. He is like the ultimate ambassador of bodybuilding.
just because of his ability to, I think this is not applying.
It feels like he belongs going on Rogan. Like he's a, if we have a celebrity that also happened to be an excellent ambassador for what it is that bodybuilding is, he's the guy.
I think just because he can speak on the business of bodybuilding too,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
rather than, but and also like the dude started at 18, bought a like he's got such.
He
a
is
good story,
bodybuilding, yeah.
and then he can talk about how it created all the business opportunities. So, and I think he's he's well spoken, doesn't have a lot of skeletons in his closet.
It's true. We would know by now.
Yeah. So that was my choice, but I thought that was a good question.
Do you watch his pod?
Rogan?
No, not Rogan. Do you watch Jay?
Oh, I catch
I
clips.
know you watch
sometimes.
Rogan, motherfucker. I already know that.
Yeah. I haven't, if I see somebody I want to hear on Jay's, I'll listen, but I can't commit to anybody weekly.
Phil Heath was just on, and I listened
saw him.
to
It
it.
was like 2.5 hours.
Dude, it was good. I'll listen to it over the course of a week. If I have 30 minutes,
Yeah.
or I'm going out for post walk meals, I'll listen to 15 minutes of it, and then I don't come back to it for a couple days. But dude, it was so good. That was the first, and Phil's been broadcasting or commentating on a lot of the big shows. Like he did the Olympia. I think I guess maybe he did last year's Olympia too, or I don't forget what other shows, maybe Boston Pro. But he's done a good job, man. He's done a really good job,
Yeah.
and I feel like he's somebody that's almost more well liked post retirement than he was during his reign, because he played a character. He played like the heel to fucking Kai Green.
Yeah. We talked about that on the Olympia review. He's definitely way more well liked.
Yeah.
And he's actually talking about,
and he's fucking yoked, dude. He is still crazy yoked, bro. He was sitting at Jay's table for this podcast, like with his arms folded over each other, and it looked like his forearms needed their own size fucking sleeve, dude.
Yeah, he just chills there. That's his like norm.
It's unbelievable. He said that he may come back too. He said that he was like, I just need, if I get to a place in my life where everything's really secure and I can just dedicate like 3 or 4 months to getting ready for a show, I would do it. That would be the scenario that I come back in.
Dude, with what like Jake Paul, that boxer, is doing with like bringing people out for like prize fights for a lot of money, I think we're gonna see that happen in bodybuilding. We're like
I heard as a prize fighter, and it's like
Cutler would do the Arnold for $1 million.
Right.
You're gonna see people putting like, hey, I'll come to your show. Think about it. It's gonna become a business. It is a business, but it's gonna become like you're gonna lure.
Or I wonder if guys start doing stuff on their own, where someone just organizes an event where it's just Phil Heath and Kai Green, and they show up and you can watch it for pay-per-view.
Wasn't that what The Rock was trying to do with
Well, he had his own show. He was trying to build his own super show. Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have gone down. It would have happened if not for COVID.
It was scheduled to, yeah.
Yeah.
That idea isn't dead. Someone will see that there's a way to challenge the IFBB, and then you're just going to get guys.
I think you're going to have to play ball, though. If you want the best guys, you're going to have to play ball with the IFBB, and then it won't be as groundbreaking as you would want it to, as your own thing. Because thinking about it, if I'm just a promoter and I just want to hire Phil Heath and Kai Green to come compete, it's not like we're watching them fight.
No.
Right? It's just like we're just going to watch them hit poses, and then what? Does some arbitrary judge give them a score or say who wins? There's no prestige behind it. I would pay to watch them fight, though, for sure. This has gone off the rails, but there's some there's a real feud there. I think those two would go at it.
Yeah, I
Put
mean,
them on the undercard of the next Jake Paul fight.
maybe we're expecting that bodybuilding. Others would be as excited as the.
Yeah, no, there's 17 people that buy that pay-per-view.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I doubt it.
Am I up?
Yeah,
Question
yeah,
wise? Okay, let's see. I pulled a couple from Instagram. So I had this guy ask, I'm self-coached and deep into an off season. How exactly to know when to pull back? I know we've talked about this a bit, but since it was someone that specifically gave some context, I figured let's watch it.
If you're taking visuals, which you should be, you're noticing you're getting softer. Blood glucose readings are increasing. Blood pressure may or may not be going up, getting in a bad place.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say you can only like appetite may be like when I say appetite issues, like you are gagging down food and like you're almost in like a mentally unhealthy place because of it.
Yeah.
I need to like make it that strong because like you're not going to be hungry in the off season, but I've experienced like I've thrown meals up after finishing. That's how brutal it was. So I don't think anybody should get to the point of throwing up. That's an issue. So I would say those are like general markers to look for. I would say mentally you start to maybe hate everything you're doing altogether. Like you're just too deep into it.
You tried to pull that off like it was like a diplomatic thing to say, and then halfway through, you're like, you're gonna hate everything. You're fucking miserable. You hate it all.
Like
no, it's a great way to put it because it gets to that point, and it's gonna correlate with all these other things that you already said. Though your blood glucose is gonna be trending up, your sleep's gonna be starting to get shittier. You're gonna have if you have no ab lines in like an overhead abs and thigh that you crunch down, or in like a flexed most muscular, if you have no abs. It's going to correlate with all these other things where you've been pushing for so long that you probably fucking hate bodybuilding. You hate doing your shots. You hate eating the meals. All that stuff. Yeah, that at a good time is a great time to pull back, especially like if you're just hating it. But you'll know it should be at a pretty extreme point, like Tommy said. Like you can't be 3 weeks into a planned 20-week off season and being like, I'm not hungry anymore. It's like, yeah, you weren't supposed to be hungry from week 1. Like, but yeah, I thought that was a good one to touch on, just as a reminder for some people. What are other visuals that you see? Like, because your abs stay tight, so you wouldn't be a good person even for that.
The low back and the love handles. I pay attention to what those are doing. If they're further expanding over my trunks, then I may be running into issues.
Okay, that's a good tangible way to put it. Yeah, you got a little extra muffin top going on. It's time to dial it back.
Yeah. I think in general, like for anybody, like if you know what your fattest body part is,
I was gonna say you got to know your fat spots.
And if it's like if it's glutes, like if those are just you're noticing they're getting bigger, like it's probably not tissue.
Yeah, like if your ass in the off season for a guy that looks like a diaper, like your glute, there's no squared off nature of your glutes at all. You've probably gone too far because you're gonna have to get them in shape. Like if you're someone that's gonna get on stage eventually, it's all gonna have to come off. And then at what cost? Then you're talking about possibly ruining your physique because you had to diet so hard to get all that off. So it's a tough balance. We've kind of gone back and forth ourselves, Tommy and I, even behind the scenes. The difference between like kind of these long, never-ending off seasons, benefit reward versus being in and being really calculated and then moving on to a different type phase. So
dude, it feels like it's the best I can describe to people, and especially like our conversations over the last year. It's like a spiral. Like
it is, yeah.
One day I'll tell you, I'm like, fuck it, I'm in this for the next year. And then the next week I could be like, I want to start
prepping. I'm so done with this. I need something intense. I need something intense.
It's a spiral. Like there's never like a point where you're just like, I'm kosher for months.
I'm good in this spot. No, never.
So, all right. I got staying kind of on the blood glucose stuff. Should someone with a blood glucose between 90 and 100 starting GH start with insulin as well?
Start with insulin. Yeah, I mean, ideally, there's other things that you would do or could do or before going right to that. So no, I would say no. Depends on the context, but I'd like to see them do post meal walks more. Maybe just move. I'm not saying this because carbs before bed are a bad thing, but in this scenario, maybe, especially if it's someone that trains a little bit earlier in the day, you can pull the carbs out of the final meal, disperse them evenly over the prior meals, and see if it sets you up in a better waking spot. Berberine is a good one. Metformin would be a good one if berberine sometimes can be expensive as an over-the-counter product. It works, but compared to like getting metformin can either be prescribed or you're getting it very, very cheap. That could be a task for some people or a consideration for some people. I'll kick it to you. I feel like I could do that, like talking about it for an hour. What else?
I mean, those are the top things I would choose to look for.
Yeah.
Starting GH, I mean, I don't think you're out of line if you add in Atlantis to start. I don't know what, it's context to what your anabolic use and what your goal is, what your size is, stuff like that. But
Lantis would, so to backtrack, Lantis would have been my choice. If we are going down the road of like, hey, let's get something in, Lantis would be first for sure.
Yeah.
And just get that over, like that basal insulin and that basal, like glucose management. And how much then would you start with?
I would start with, I assume this is a male asking. I didn't write that.
Let's say it's just a guy, he's 220, like
yeah.
Muscle guy.
10 IUs, and I'd keep it on training days.
Yeah, that's a good approach. Yeah. 10's where I would start too. And then I'd probably, as you get deeper into the off season, start to see some of the things that we've already talked about in terms of blood glucose. The move, I think, is just from 10 to 20. I don't see that going from 10 to 15 is going to make enough of a marginal difference to be worth it. So I would just go from 10 to 20, but that would be down the line for a bigger guy deep into an enhanced off season. But I agree with you. I like that much more than using Humalog. It has its place. They all do. But in terms of just like, okay, we're using this for overall glucose management tool, I like Lantis a lot. It's safe.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know the context of what his macros are. Like, you could also adjust your macros to have, less carbs and more fats. Like, you could still be in a surplus and adjust what you're doing macro wise.
And that's not terrible. I mean, I guess that the whole thing is like it's already up in the 90s, and then I'm adding this. But given that you apply some of these other strategies that we talked about, or even just really look at your diet, if you are at that point where you're a big male bodybuilder enhanced in an off-season push and you're waking up in the 90s, that's not a terrible thing. Like, that's not, it's a shot into, it's a shot in time. Like,
right.
Your A1C, I think, is the biggest one. We've talked about that too. Like, that's, if your A1C is high at a point in the off season, that's a better marker than just waking up in the 90s.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That, like, the blood glucose that you're checking on your own, it's a tool, but keep in mind,
it's just in the moment. It's
a machine too, and there's error. I mean, we had Jason Theopold on this podcast, and he said there's 8 points that there can be an error.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about if you don't swab your finger and wipe off the alcohol,
if you're not hydrated, if you don't wake up and hit some water right away, like you were talking about, you're dehydrated and excuse
While we're on this, anybody checking your blood glucose, wake up, bathroom, do your thing, chug some. You need to chug water because you wake up dehydrated. Your body hasn't had water for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah,
you need to chug water, let it get into the bloodstream, then
sit and chill out for a minute and then take it. Like, I always say, like, wait even 5 minutes. If you can sit there and do some good like nasal breathing, it's a good just 5 minutes to be mindful and then take it, and you're in a better state to actually get an accurate reading, because it might not even be that high.
No, yeah, and then
if anything, any breaks in that process that we just described, are going to cause it to run high. You're never going to do something that causes it to skew low. So it might not be as high if you get a more accurate reading. Like even lack of sleep, you could wake up and be in the 90s when you weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I assumed it was like a trend he had noticed, but
Yeah.
even still, like 90s is just, I think we've created this, like, that's your sense of awareness, but like 100 plus is that's where you need to take action.
No, that's a problem. Yeah.
Like if you're, and then again, like where you just mentioned A1C, like I just got my blood work back.
Yeah.
I had a blood glucose reading that I took myself here last week and it was like 98.
Yeah.
My A1C was 5.1. Like I don't
Wow.
care about that reading at all. I care about my A1C.
Yeah.
So if I know that like my A1C over the years is relatively between 5.0 and 5.2.
Have you ever got it tested on a push?
Yeah.
Like mid push, and how high does it get on you? Probably still pretty low, no?
5.2. I've never seen it higher than 5.2.
Whoa. Okay, right on.
So I have good insulin resistance. And then I can't quote this or speak, but my blood glucose on my blood work, they're not checking it at the finger. It was 74. And I had taken 2 readings in the 90 with a glucometer. So again, I think we need to remember that these are devices that have errors. How long have if you've had your glucometer for years, it may need to be serviced. It may need to be recalibrated. It may need to just be tossed and get a new, there's a lot of different variables. So I've seen the glucometer cause a lot of stress. And what happens when you're stressed? The number goes up. So
yeah, you're not building muscle, that's for sure. That was one of my biggest takeaways from talking with Roman, was him just talking about like trying not to be stressed, because it's so true. Like you are not, none of these anabolic processes that we are so concerned with and argue online about and do studies over, like none of that shit is working if you're just a stressed person. And you wake up and the first thing that you do is get stressed out from a little fucking machine. And it's like,
the world's on fire.
Hold on a second. Like, let's just get back to bodybuilding. Like, let's not freak out over this.
Yep.
All right, I got kind of a quick hitter opinion based one for you. Can Samson win the Arnold?
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Okay. Nick's in. Andrew Jack is in.
Yeah, he can win it.
Yeah, he can win. So what's your more expanded take? Who do you think? Because Nick is in now. Andrew Jack is in now. And I don't know that he's going to be in contention, but Patrick Moore is also in.
Okay.
Last I heard from Patrick Moore, he was doing classic.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about him.
Man, what a rise and drastic fall, dude. I was at the 2019 Olympia, and besides Hottie, he was the talk of the show, Patrick Moore. Everyone was like, whoa, this guy looks incredible.
Just never put on the size.
Never put it on. Yeah.
And now 2019 is like,
yeah,
dude, it's
different
a
lifetime
size game now, but with some shapes too. I mean, obviously because he's won one before, and he's coming off a 3rd place at the O. I think Nick has to be the front runner, but
yeah,
Samson already beat Andrew Jack. I think I'm guessing Samson knew he was doing the Arnold well before the Olympia. Like this wasn't like, I guess I'll do the Arnold.
Fly by night thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was planned. And I think like from what I've heard of him speak on Fuad's podcast and knowing he's with Milos, like I would assume he's probably not had to push as hard as others, maybe gear or food. It sounds like
they said that Fuad said that point blank. He said, I tiptoe around this, and I don't know if Samson's going to get mad about this, but he takes way less shit than everybody else.
That was what I was trying to say is like, yeah. I don't think Samson pushed. I don't think his body's even close to the check engine light.
Yeah.
I think he could go all year this year too, if he wants.
Yeah.
So,
and he's going to keep getting better though, too, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I would love to see it. And I think too, because he's been dieting for so long, someone like that just can't possibly get flat, running them flat for like, what's ever flat for them, and running them into kind of a harsh deficit, like all for an extended period of time like that, I think he's only going to get better conditioning wise. I think for him, it takes a long year of dieting to really pull off another layer of skin. That means that you're peeled on a bodybuilding stage.
Did was he next to Nick at all in the Olympia? I don't remember.
Not that I remember. No, they were kind of on opposite sides because
That'd be
he ends up sixth, and so Rami was next to Nick a lot.
yeah. I just remember Nick
But
next
you're right.
to Nick next to
Yeah.
Brandon, and I mean, or Samson next to Brandon, and Samson.
Well, Samson against Rami too. The first lineup call out by the
Yeah.
numbers, he came out and Samson was next to him, and it was like, man, I remember saying this to you months ago about seeing him both at the Arnold, but then at the Boston Pro compared to other guys that are big, and it was like, whoa, he's fucking big.
Yeah.
So for him to have that, and then just be a little, I think too, conditioning is such a what have you done for me lately game in pro bodybuilding. Those guys are, yes, compared to the other competitors, but also compared to what did you bring the last time. So for someone like Samson, I think that's a plus because he just needs to be better than he was at the Olympia in terms of conditioning, and it will stand out to people. They'll be like, oh wow, he leveled this up. Whereas Nick, they have been super consistent, and it feels like Matt Jansen doesn't miss with his top guys. But that's a high standard then on the other side for Nick because he is always peeled. You never know, guys miss sometimes. And then Andrew, same thing. The sky, like you can only go up from there. He kind of looked like he was at a guest posing at the Olympia, if I'm being honest. From the back at least.
That's I mean, knowing that he can improve that is
right.
I mean that
I'm excited, dude. Like I'm big on Andrew Jack. Like Andrew Jack could be everything that we just said about Samson. Like Andrew Jack, if he just brought crazy nailed conditioning and it didn't sacrifice his other body parts, we're talking about a guy that could walk in and win 5+ Olympias consecutively. Like he has bodybuilding dynasty Mr. Olympia type traits. And it's just going to be a matter of him nailing it.
Who else is doing it? There's not many guys.
I think it's only 8 or 9 guys.
I saw like they were down to 6 and then they upped the prize money.
Yeah, so we listed what, those 4 guys that I just said. William Bonak is in.
Okay.
Who, I mean, fuck, I want to write that guy off at every show, and I still feel like he could show up, and if you told me that he won the Arnold, I wouldn't be surprised. Sean Clarita is doing the Open for the Arnold as well. Where do you think what's his ceiling? So we got a couple 212 guys. So listen to this lineup. We got Andrew Jacks, we got Kamal, Samson, Bonak, Sean Clarita, Nick Walker, Justin Rodriguez, who just does nothing but compete, and Akeem Williams. So we're looking at 8 guys. Where could Sean
if we talk about this is the earliest Arnold preview you're going to see, but if we talk about how everyone in that line, like if we were just positive, I mean,
they're all big.
Akeem's won shows and taken 6th to the Olympia. His last Olympia performance isn't indicative of what he's capable of.
He's an X factor because any
Kamal
given Saturday,
and Sean have no weight cap, so and Kamal has to actually, I think he has to give up a little bit to make 212. So I think his best physique is in this show.
Well, he looked great at Tampa in the Open this year. He had a couple of good Open placings.
I know what those 212 guys bring is they're pretty much guaranteed that them plus Nick will be peeled.
Yep.
And then
no doubt about it. And then everyone else is kind of a wild card. Other than Nick. I know Nick. Well, you said Nick, yeah.
Samson and Andrew are mass monsters, but
with incredible shape. Justin and Akeem are just brutal mass. And then Bonak, who is like pound for pound, maybe the most muscular guy in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Like inch by inch, like he is just jam-packed full of muscle.
It's a hell of a, I mean, it's small.
That's a pretty solid lineup. I kind of like that. It's just 8 heavy hitters. Like this is a fucking really nice group of guys. And I like that there's like a level of like prestige to it. Like I so badly wish the Olympia would just go back to like 16 guys or 12 guys even. Like to where it's an honor even to go.
I think it's still an honor. I mean, because
It's still an honor, but 30 plus, dude. Like,
well, I think there was
I get it was the year before they were qualifying guys early. I get all that.
yeah. I don't think we'll see that again.
But even so, I mean, as long as they got a jacket for all 30 guys, I guess it's still pretty fucking awesome.
Fuck yeah, man. Give me that tracksuit.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, this Arnold is setting up to be a good show. I honestly would love to see Samson, nothing more than to see Samson just come out and even a level better than he was at the Olympia and just fucking mop the floor with everybody. Because honestly, him trying to predict what his best could be versus what we know Nick's best could be, it would be hard for Samson to lose just with how big and structurally like how much bigger he is than Nick. But we'll see. We'll get to see everybody against each other.
And X factor at the Arnold is the posing round is scored.
Very true. Samson maybe is the best poser in open bodybuilding.
True. Nick's has improved. I mean, he dropped to
Nick's was much improved at the Olympia. I give a shout out to him.
Put effort into it.
He did give effort to it. No doubt about it. And that's something like for guys like Andrew Jack, that might be bad because he's looked less than professional, I think, in some aspects of his posing. Like he's still very much
still
learning.
So new too.
Yeah. That's all right.
That's a factor too, though.
Yeah.
With all, I mean, Sean, Kamal, Akeem.
Yeah, Sean can pose. Sean can pose his ass off.
Knowing that routine score definitely.
How high do you think in that lineup out of 8? What's the highest you see Sean placing? Can he win?
I don't see how, but
it would take multiple people being off. But would it be crazy?
Rodriguez before, so
yeah. Would it surprise you if it was like, hey, Andrew Jack and Samson brought pretty much the same thing. Nick and Sean were peeled and they were the top 2.
No.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either. I'm not saying that that's what my pick is, but just talking through different scenarios. Like if I found out the following day after the show, that was the rhetoric that those 2 guys were just on the money and they were the top 2, I would be like, well, because Nick's going to be you already said that Nick is the front runner, so that he's the standard for the show. So Nick is the closest structurally to Sean, other than I guess Bonak, but he's much more similar than like if Samson is the clear cut winner. I feel like Sean Tarita has to be 7th if that's the standard. But if Nick wins, he could be 2nd. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on how.
It'll be good. Yeah, I'm pumped to see it because I know he was wanting to get at it at the Open Olympia as well.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. So, I mean, there's more money for him there.
Yeah, they jacked this fucking Arnold money up quick, man. They were like, "What? No one's gonna do the show? Here's another $100K."
Dude, I mean, when you got 6 guys doing it,
that's a lot of money. That's nice money, dude. That's nice bodybuilding money.
Yeah.
Who's up? Am I up?
I'm up, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm gonna pull one from Facebook.
Okay.
I had a few other YouTubers, but okay, this is from the group. Lucas, what are your 2 smaller and 2 bigger goals for this year?
Oh fuck. 2 smaller and 2 bigger goals. Do you want to go?
I don't know if I have 2 and 2, but I can.
I don't know that I have 2 and 2 either. I'll talk about it. I want to do pre-script and get through that. And then bigger goals, figuratively and literally, I want to carry 280 pounds and just walk around at 280 for a bit.
Nice.
So
fucking mass.
Try and get better for my clients, for me and my clients, and then also I just want to be big. So
yeah, I have a business monetary goal. I'm not gonna put the number out there just because that's kind of douchey in my opinion, but I do have a monetary goal I want to hit in 2023 for Stiles strength performance. So that's a larger goal. And then I have competition goals this year, which I'll talk about my prep, but I'm not gonna tell the weeks out right now. So there's prep goals, smaller goals.
I will DM me and I'll tell you how many weeks out Tommy is.
$10 you extort it
to the highest bidder.
Smaller goals.
And yeah, those are good. I mean, I have one for business too, like a number of clients and stuff, but
I'm going even more. I'm going smaller than that. I have a goal to fold my laundry on the same day that I wash it.
Oh, good luck. Let me know how it works. I've never done that. I have a spare bedroom here and I just dump all the clean stuff on the bed.
Yeah, it's great.
Like as if I'm in a hotel, you know, when you have a hotel and there's 2 beds in the room and you just use the other bed as storage.
Yeah. What else are you gonna do with it?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all. I got a client coming and staying with me this weekend actually, though, so I have to fucking do it. Miserable. Yeah. That'll be cool though. I have a guy that I've been helping for like a year, and he's in prep to compete. So I have him come and stay with me for a little bit, put him through some training, see what he looks like in person.
Little training camp action.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Man, what other goals, man? I think that's all, right? You want to move on? I think we addressed that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could think of a million little things, but
yeah. That's nice that somebody asked though. Thanks whoever asked. I saw this and I thought this was an interesting one, especially with my recent like crop of clients that I got. Is being an overthinker a bad thing for bodybuilding?
Ooh. I am going to say yes.
Okay, why?
Well, our podcast is titled The Thinking Man's Podcast, not the Overthinking Man's Podcast.
True. But don't they kind of go one in the same? Don't they go hand in hand? I very rarely meet people that think about things just the right amount. I either see people that give it no thought.
Agreed.
Or people that just overthink the hell out of it.
I guess I take the word overthinking at face value, and I'm like, if they're overthinking, they're probably neurotic and they're complicated.
100%. Yes, I think that's the sentiment of the question.
Yeah, I think if we look at it as like a pendulum, and this is you're not thinking versus you're overthinking.
Yeah.
Find that mid-range and kind of live there, and you're gonna have to hover one way or the other. I mean,
yeah. I would say the overthinking end of the pendulum is worse than not thinking at all, honestly. I know guys that don't think at all, and they're just Mr. Cool, and they just go about their approach and don't overthink anything, and then for whatever reason, they're huge.
You're saying overthinking is worse or better?
I would think it would be worse. If we're talking about the extremes.
I agree, because I think if I take someone who's brand new to bodybuilding and if they can just do what a coach tells them and don't think,
just mindlessly go work your ass off.
Progress.
Go mindlessly work your ass off.
Yeah.
And I'll worry about all the details. That's what you hired me to do.
Pick up some stuff along the way that you figured out, but
and adapt and be open to coaching, but that's why you have a coach.
Yeah.
I have a couple of guys recently that are just like these younger guys, like 25 and under even, are just so they've thought themselves into handcuffs. It's too overthought. Like we have forgotten, and this is not me to like rip on anybody, just more so like as a reminder to people, like just working your ass off like is going to get you plenty far. Like if that's not already in place, like you just at some point just cutting out all the distractions and just working your ass off, that needs to happen before anything else, before we worry about these like finite details. Like I see people that are literally just overthinking themselves into being paralyzed, and it's like, man, this is just too much. every little thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's just the state of the times because there's so many, including us. I mean, we talk about shit, but also we always try to bring it back to like intensity with intent is still king. Like you, at the end of the
And
day,
the thing is, when you're in the gym is the time for intensity. Like worry about, like let your coach outside of the gym after the fact worry if this was too sloppy or if this could be more accurate or this could be more lined up. Like while you're in there though, it's not a science experiment. Like go in there and lay the fucking wood down.
yeah,
That's the only way you make progress. Like that's how you make progress is with the training. The training needs, like you have to be a worker to be really good at this. You have to love the work.
agreed. I mean, I listened to just to give you an idea of somebody who did no thinking was Jose Raymond.
Right.
He said he didn't use a food scale until he started working with Chris Aceto. he's like, then I learned I was under eating, but
Right.
I never measured. I just ate. Like,
Yeah.
we're not telling people to do that, but at the same time, like he just ate. He found a way to be consistent with something that he was doing and he did it. That's the biggest thing is like, if you go from doing nothing to doing something, just do something to the best of your fucking ability. It's better than what you were doing before.
100%.
I mean, even on the lifestyle front, I get people who ask the most insane questions. And I'm like, when you came to me, you were eating like, you were drinking 4 coffees and having like a bowl of Chex Mix, and that was your day.
Yeah.
And you're asking me if like these little minor
Right.
details in brands of
Should I do my cardio fasted and then train later in the
yeah,
day? It's
man,
like, what the fuck does it matter, dude?
just do it.
Yeah.
And
Do it
you'll
with
get a
some
lot
intent.
further.
Like, do it with some fucking intensity behind. Like, do it like this is the thing that's important.
Yeah. But yeah, I think overthinking, because those are the type of people that probably like there's just certain traits I've learned working with people that like,
They're
man,
anxious as well. Like,
yeah, yeah, you're high
yeah,
strung.
yeah,
Overthinkers are high strung. And if you can't find the ability in bodybuilding marathon to chill the fuck out, good luck.
yeah. Man, I feel so ranty about it, but it is what it is. What do we got? Am I up? You got one?
I think you asked me something.
Oh, I asked about overthinking. Yeah. I think probably the last one.
Yeah, we got like, I think we're like 7 minutes out, I think. I might be wrong, but uh all right. What are your recommendations for older people getting into bodybuilding? This is from Kieran in the Facebook group. 40 plus crowd. How to approach training, PEDs, expectations for growth. So we're kind of talking about the older demographic.
And what are the goals? Did he say? He's asking
Getting
us
into
how
bodybuilding.
far? Oh, he's just getting into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
After 40, he's a TRT guy. I guess it depends on what you mean by bodybuilding, like competitive bodybuilding. I would, man, I would never want to point anyone away from competing, but I don't know that I would even be suggesting someone starting enhanced competitive bodybuilding after 40. I mean, I would just
I
be
think if you don't
pretty,
have the
I would be pretty
prior
conservative
exposure,
about it. Yeah, I would be pretty conservative about it though. I would probably get standard, like get like a baseline of bloods before you go on so you can see what everything looks like. And then I would just hire a good coach. I would be pretty patient and pretty, I would almost go into it with no expectations. Who are Tommy and I to give you an idea
yeah.
of what your ceiling is to grow? Like go into it with no expectations. Go into it like you're doing this because you hope that you working your ass off is going to translate into a better physique and go from there. Um,
I
Again,
think if you,
I wouldn't overthink it. Like, was he
yeah,
asking about drugs specifically or?
all of it, training, nutrition, PEDs.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a good start. What else? What do you got for him, Tommy?
Um, well, on the training aspect, I
Yeah.
mean,
Training. Hit this
I
guy.
would basically you have to be on like what injuries have you acquired throughout your life already? I assume you've already been training for a long time, as most people that get into bodybuilding at that age um, have been. If you have injuries, don't make them worse.
Right.
You could have the perfect storm. I mean, I've got some older people who started with me who are, I mean, they're going to whip some younger people's ass simply because they
Really?
they got muscle maturity.
Sure.
They've been banging for 15 years, and it's like you put that next to a 22-year-old that's, like
So you're assuming this guy has just been clanging and banging like it. So this guy is Andrew Jacked in your mind as you answer this?
he's not Andrew Jack genetically, but I'm speaking as if this person is
Has
just
been
now
training.
getting. I'm not assuming that this person just is now picking up weights for the first time.
Okay.
But if
That's kind of what I thought. That's kind of how I answered it. I was like, be careful. Like, this is not anything to no, okay. If it's someone that's been like a gym rat their whole life and then now they are just thinking about actually getting on stage, like, yeah, I mean that's a little different. Yeah, what injuries are a big thing, and then two, not only what injuries, but what are your strong body parts and what needs to come up at this point. Like you would have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, PEDs, I would approach it. Obviously get your blood work done first, see what's off, see what needs to be fixed. If you have a clean bill of health, then I think you have a good runway for growth and for success even. I think you need to be realistic with your expectations in the sense of,
Yes.
Are you gonna be Mr. Olympia? Nope. Are you gonna win a pro show? Probably not. But who's to say there's a ceiling on how far you can take it? Step one is to do a show, if that's the goal. Don't put I got to turn pro. Same thing we tell young people. Just give your best
Just
effort
do
to
it.
do a show.
Yes.
And then if you like it, do another show. But don't.
Yeah.
I see people of all age, Brett, like it's just the constant desire to talk about the pro card or that pinnacle. And it's like, man, you took the whole process, you took the love out of the game because you've put like a label on it. So just get with a coach and do your best, give your best effort and don't overthink it. Like we just answered with the last question. I think assuming you do have a long training background, like you're just getting into bodybuilding in your 40s, but you've been training for, I would assume, over a decade, you're probably going to have a pretty good runway. If you can, if you're coachable and you can adhere to a plan.
Yeah, I mean, it's not totally crazy. I think we know that guy, Paul Barnett.
Yep.
And I think he's well into it. I think he's almost 50. And he had a like a 2-year run where he put like 40 pounds of muscle on and looked fucking big on stage. That competed as a super heavyweight. And I think he's like nearly 50 even. I think he's 47 or 48, which, so yeah, like you said, if this exposure has been low and your health is just going to be the number one thing.
If you've got a clean bill of health, I mean,
but if you're committed to it, like, and you've, like Tommy said, if you're someone that's just been laying the foundation on it for years, fucking give her, let it rip.
More often than not, it's the mileage, not the years, that retires
100%.
people, and you don't have the mileage. So you may be your starting point may be your advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
So
all right, guys, I think we're gonna end it here. So thanks for everybody that wrote in. We're gonna try to make it a point to answer your questions, maybe even call out where we got them from if you're watching on YouTube, if you're one of the people that's in the private Facebook group. So we appreciate anybody that did send it along. If we didn't get to your question, leave it on the next one, or leave it on the next thread, leave it on the next video, and we'll keep banking them and eventually get to it. So for Tommy Stiles, I'm Joseph PIRCHER. This was a Thinking Man's podcast. Until next time, guys, we are out.